Hi, my name is Jenny Devonshire, and welcome to the Pause2Perform podcast, where we talk about all things relating to wellness, what you should take a pause for in your day to optimize your mental and physical health and perform at your peak. So welcome back to the Pause2Perform podcast with me, Jenny Devonshire. And this week I am joined by AJ Carter. So AJ is the founder of the game-changing company who provide personal branding and innovative learning solutions to midlife professionals who feel stuck in their career or personal life. So welcome to the podcast, AJ.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm really excited about this chat because personal branding is something I kind of think I know what it is, but I'm not sure I do. So I'm sure you can help to shed light onto it. And I thought we'd like to start off if you could explain to the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are today, and also like what inspired you to focus on personal branding for midlife professionals.
Yeah. And before I start, personal branding is a bit of a buzzword these days, and everybody thinks it's just for influencers or VIPs, but it's not. We all have a personal brand, whether we're aware of it or not. And yeah, we'll come to that later. And I'm quite passionate about the topic, or I'm really passionate about living your best version. And I know kind of like your line of work is similar. And it probably stems back from my childhood, to be honest. I was one of those kids. I was always really curious about things, inquisitive. And then I started school, and oh boy, I did not perform well. I just couldn't concentrate. I was sitting in the back of the class. I thought the teachers are so boring, even though I loved the subject matter. And it was only at about 12, 13 where I thought, like, hold on, they're kids. I don't think they're as smart as me, and I don't want to be big-headed about it, but literally they weren't that smart, and they got better grades, way better grades than I did. I thought, how can that be? And I talked to my father about it, and I said to him, like, well, I don't like school. I like the break time, but I can't concentrate. But I really want to have good grades. It's annoying. And then he said to me, why don't you teach yourself? And I was like, can I? And he's like, why not? What's stopping you? And only now do I realize what a pivotal moment that was in my life, because he would give me books to the subjects I would study kind of like every evening, because I loved the subject matters. And I would create like A4 sheets of paper with bullet points on it, color code them. And when it came to the exam, I could recall the information in front of my eye. And I literally went within 1 year from the bottom third of the class to the top 10%. And then all of a sudden, teachers just had that different perception of me. And I felt they finally got me. I wasn't that disruptive kid. That wasn't me. I didn't want to be disruptive. I wanted to contribute. I had something to say. And I felt seen for the very first time. And I went on to do A-levels, went to uni, did law. I wanted to do art, but my father was do something proper first. So I did law. I ended up doing a master's in international relations. And before I knew it, climbed the corporate ladder. And it was only in my early 30s when I became a mother to wonderful twin daughters that I realized, you know what, I don't want to go back to my job because it would involve getting a nanny or a shed loads of au pairs. And I always dabbled in art and branding. And then a friend asked me to do something for him. So I think it was just like a logo in the brochure. And I did that and I really enjoyed it. And then some of his clients saw it and they were like, oh, who do you use as a graphic designer? And he referred them to me. And I was like, well, I'm not a graphic designer. And they were like, but you're good. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. That's not my profession. But I actually ended up taking on more and more projects, initially in graphic design, but branding is, my heart beats for branding, making somebody not just look good, like initially it was companies, but actually really bringing that message across kind of like visually. And I started having a few personal brands, and I noticed I really love working with people, taking somebody and really understanding who are they and why don't they come across like that to others. and what can we do about it? So that's how I ended up in personal branding. And so I hope that made sense. I'm like, gosh, 47 years in 2 minutes.
No, exactly. Well, first of all, absolutely amazing that your dad had that reaction to you, because so
Yeah.
easily he could have just been like, "What are you talking about?" and like also
Mm,
dismissed you, and to sort of allow you that space to just teach yourself. That's incredible.
yeah.
Second of all,
Yeah.
twins. That's also well done to you.
Thank you.
And yeah, so that's funny actually when you think about how you come across. It's so often that you get completely wrong impression about people, and I never
Totally.
thought of it being like a branding thing, but it's so true. I think my brand is like gym kit, because I'm always in gym kit. But so what exactly would you say is personal branding, and why is it so important for midlife professionals in particular? What kind of things can you help them with?
So a personal brand is nothing else than your first impression and your reputation. So how you come across to others. And it's very important. When people ask me, what do? I quite often say I match the inside to the outside. And it's really important to understand that a personal brand is nothing artificial. It's just really bringing out the best side in yourself. And we all have different sides. So, for example, right now I'm kind of like in my work attire, but I'm an avid bushcraft and canoeing kind of like enthusiast. So you might find me in my bushcraft and canoeing clothes. And if you bump into me in that scenario, you have a certain impression of me versus how I come across now. Same kind of like if I'm in my kind of like gym kit, I give a different impression. So it's really important to be, first of all, aware. And I believe all of us, we have like 7 different outer personalities. So you need to establish what are they, and then be quite strategic about it. Which side do you want to show for what purpose? So it's really important at work to show off your best side. And the problem is, and that's why I'm so passionate about midlife professionals, the problem is when we start kind of like our career, to be honest, we take the first job that comes along, quite often the one that pays the most. We're not strategic about it, or we haven't even got the ability to be strategic about it. We just have to get a job, right? So before you know it, you're on that corporate ladder, or even like whatever company you're in, and people have a certain impression of you because you're trying to impress, and you're pigeonholed. And it's really hard to come out of that pigeonhole, or we think it's really hard. It's actually not that hard. But you almost start to live that fake identity that isn't really you. And you start to dress a certain way. So a lot of my clients, they dress down rather than up. And they dress in a way that they almost want to hide. Oh, I don't want to be seen, so I'm going to wear this oversized gray jumper, for example. And so they are constantly in that conflict with themselves, where they know inside, well, I'm amazing and I can do X, Y, and Z, but nobody sees it. So that's really what personal branding is: bringing out your inner values, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you're passionate about, and matching that to an outer identity. And never should you try to copy somebody. So I know there are, and that's the problem with personal branding, it's a bit of a buzzword. And there are a lot of people out there who go like, oh, be like me or be like that person. And you think, well, you can't. It's going to come across kind of like inauthentic. So it's really finding out who you truly are, and then also creating kind of like a visual brand. Colors are so important. I had like an amazing client, and he used to wear those gray suits, and his hair started to go gray, and he had a gray beard, and he was just gray, and his office was a white wall. So on Zoom, I had to concentrate really hard to listen to him and what he had to say, because I was nearly falling asleep. And I had to tell him, and we went through the whole kind of like, okay, what does your skin color look like? Obviously, you've got the gray hair now. So simple changes: crisp white shirt, dark navy blue suit, change the color of his background. And wow, all of a sudden he looked like $1 million. and you listen to him, and his career went, tenfold. Amazing. So simple changes sometimes.
It's funny you say about that, because I was talking to my aunt, I think it was last winter actually, and I said, like, all my winter clothes were black, and I said, right, this year I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring some colour into my sort of winter wardrobe. So, I mean, if anyone follows me on social media, they will have seen all the red jumpers. But basically, I just went on and I bought loads of red jumpers because I know that red looks quite good on me. And then I was like, so now, and then it's so much nicer to have some colour, because I was like literally wearing black all the time, and I was like, it's miserable outside and I'm wearing miserable clothes. So I think bringing colour is very important.
Totally, color and the right sizing, and it doesn't matter what size you are, but you need to have well-fitted clothes. And and think about it, we're constantly judging people. If you're out in town and you're sitting in the cafe and you're looking at people, your mind immediately goes, oh, I think this person's we constantly do it. So it's so powerful if you are aware of your own appearance and you can hone it in and be quite strategic about it, especially in a work context. We see so much more with our body language, with the way we look, than through words. So you might as well utilize it.
And does that work that kind of the other way around? So obviously clothes can make you feel a different way. So if you want to feel like a certain way, or could you use your clothing to do that? Does it work rather than
Yeah, definitely. So I had one client who's she still is absolutely amazing. Seriously, she has so much to offer, so much knowledge. Whenever kind of like she started talking about the topic she is passionate about, I was like, oh, wow, tell me more. And yet at work, she couldn't quite deliver that. And she really needed to go up the next step in management. And that meant networking. And she hated it. She's like, I'm an introvert, I can't network. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So, and actually as an introvert, you're perfect at networking because you have the ability to listen and let the other people speak. But with her, it was something simple as I sent her, Wonder Woman. I sent her a pair of socks with Wonder Woman on, and she started wearing those socks in those situations, and it helped. It's a little something, and it could be a piece of jewelry, it could be anything, it could be some fancy underwear, but psychologically you feel powerful, and that translates into kind of like how you come across to other people as well. So yeah, it definitely works the other way around.
And how is her networking now? Is she sort of a super
amazing? And she's got an amazing job. She is just so powerful. Like, yeah, I love her. So, and that's so lovely to see, and I have to admit, my favorite clients are probably the introverts. I mean, nobody is 100% introvert or extrovert, but you just see the biggest transformations, and letting them, because quite often their outside doesn't match their inside at all, because they created this shell, kind of like, oh, don't look at me, and if we take that away, and they realize they don't have to be an extrovert. They don't have to kind of like wear colors they don't feel comfortable with. It's not about that. It's matching it to themselves. But when they start to embrace it, and the opportunities, that the doors that open for them, that's just fills me with so much joy.
Yeah, that sounds so rewarding. It must be.
Yeah, it really is. It must be same for you if you have somebody coming to you for fitness or changing even their body appearance, and you work with them and you achieve that goal. It's magical, right?
Yeah, actually, I had one of my clients. They turned 50 this year, and they sent me a picture of them in a bikini on their birthday, just saying like, "Thank you so much," because I felt so so much more confident.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. And it is really good. And then also I had another client. I just remember when we first started working together, they couldn't do a squat at all there because their mobility was so bad. And now I was working with them the other day, and I was like, your squats are amazing now. It's like the same on the journey. It's like, it's great. We get to do something that we love and also that really helps other people. It's like,
yes, exactly. And again, I think we both have the same kind of like mission to bring the best out in people, to be the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And on that note, actually, can you share, we've obviously already shared a great success story, but do you have anyone else that really comes to mind that you've kind of worked with and really helped through your branding, and like maybe sort of going into a bit of detail onto like the steps that got you there, or got them there, I should say.
Yeah, so the steps are kind of like identical for every single client. So there's a whole method behind it. Obviously, the outcome is very specific to each client. But so my method is called Pivot, and because I like pivoting personalities, brands, careers. And the P stands for past. So it's really important to understand what have you been doing up to this point, where have you come from. It's really powerful. And a lot of us think, oh, I've done bits and bobs. And when you actually, there's a whole process behind it, you start to realize that you have so much more expertise than you think you have. And that is really powerful in itself. So we get to the point where they're now. We then start to look at their identity. And first of all, the inner one, what are their values? What are they passionate about? What do they believe in? What do they stand for? But then also the outer, kind of like the more visual identity. How do they dress? We do a bit of a color analysis as well. Is your hair color the right color for you, or the haircut? And I'm all about body confidence. It doesn't matter if you're a lot of larger people, you probably find that as well, are hiding in bigger clothes. And I'm like, no, if you are happy with your body, show it off. So we're doing a lot of that work, but also communication style. So I had one client, man in his 50s. And again, amazing what he's done in his life. Absolutely wonderful. Again, dressed like he wanted to hide all the time, but also he talked like this all the time. He was almost too scared to talk up. And he just spoke in that one. I said to him, like, you speaking like a slow moving train. And you lost me after 30 seconds. So with him, we kind of like identified that as well. And actually, when he got fired up about something, his communication style would change. So it's kind of like really getting a snapshot of what do they look like, how do they communicate, what do they believe in, so their whole identity. The V is really the vision. Where do they actually want to go with it? Because as I said, we all have 7 different personalities around us. So if I bring back my example, if I want to be, I don't know, the next famous bushcrafter, I'm not going to show up like that. I wouldn't be taken seriously, right? So it's really important to understand, where do they want to be in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? And I get them to dream big, because life is not a dress rehearsal. We only get that one shot. You might as well go for it. The O is obstacles. So quite often I have clients who come to me, they might lack a certain skill set to go up to the next level. So I recently had a client, she really wanted to go into the top senior management, but she felt she couldn't sell. And I said, well, everybody can sell. We're constantly selling ourselves. So we went a little bit through that, but with her, we actually had to work on her money mindset. So I can give pointers, but quite often with the obstacles, I identify them, and then I have a huge network where I can send people to. For example, style as well. So I would say I'm reasonably good in identifying what colors suit you and what style, and I can point you somewhere. But I'm not like a personal shopper or personal stylist, but I work with people where I can say, okay, meet my friend over here and you can book a session and go shopping with them. So that's the obstacles. And T is really the transformation or takeoff. So every one of my clients gets their own personal brand Bible, as I call it. So everything we worked through is in there, and they can always refer back to it. And then obviously I'm still there to support them. And it's really in that transformation stage, we also work with things like imposter syndrome. Every single client has it. I have it. We all have it. And it's really important to have somebody to talk you through it, and to, make sure actually, if you do turn up at work in a different outfit, people might notice for 10 seconds and they go like, yeah, that looks nice. But to be honest, everybody cares about themselves and not about you. So it's kind of like working with them at the transformation stage. And that's effectively it, to be honest.
Yeah, so just on that last point, it's the same thing in the gym. People get really self-conscious, but yeah, everyone is pretty much just absorbed in what they are doing. And it's the same thing in classes and stuff. It's like no one's looking at you. If they're looking at anyone, it's themselves in the mirror, and you see that. But I don't really understand why people have that belief. But yeah, that sounds like a great little process. Well, not little, probably it's a huge process. But is there a specific time period, or is it sort of very much like dependent on the individual?
It depends on the individual. So I'm somebody, probably like you, quite an action-orientated person. I don't like to waffle about. I like to kind of like start working. So the process is you can do it in 5 weeks. Most people, but I work with them between 3 and 6 months. So it all depends really on how quickly you want to do something, and also certain mindset issues might be a little bit harder to overcome, and it might take a little longer to work with. But to be honest, I see it. It's not like you start the process and you have to wait 3 months to see results. You see results after the first session, because I like to start with the big items first. And even just visually changing yourself is so powerful, or the way you talk. So yeah, you start kind of like seeing improvements from day one.
It's a bit like, when you have a breakup and then you decide to sort of reinvent yourself, don't you? And you sort of often see people after like a big breakup just looking amazing because they've just completely they've just changed everything. Then their ex sees them and goes,
Literally.
"Oh, I like you back," and then you're like, "No." But yeah,
Totally. And interestingly enough, I actually had 2 clients who came to me for personal branding for dating. So when the first one came along, I was like, I'm not sure if I do that. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And the method works exactly. And what's so powerful if you actually do it with dating as well is, again, we have a certain belief of who is suitable for us. But when you go into the past and into the identity, you realize, actually, I thought X is good for me, but no, I need to start looking at Y. And then you take it to the next level where you think, okay, so again, let's take my example. I mean, I'm happily married, but if I wasn't, and let's say I had my eyes on somebody who's into camping, canoeing, and bushcrafting, I wouldn't turn up like this on a date, because he immediately would have that perception of me. Oh, she's a bit of a, I don't know, a girly girl or something, which I'm not. I'm actually a tomboy inside. So it's, again, you have to be quite strategic about it. And it's not pretending to be somebody you're not. So, because I do bushcraft and I go canoeing, but having that awareness. And yes, you can, for example, date somebody who's completely different. Like, I can't think of something, a boxer, for example. I mean, I'm not into boxing, and I wouldn't pretend to be into it. And I would certainly not dress like it. So, and it could still work, but it's really important to find out who you are, what's the best version of yourself and what do you actually want. And then it's a bit like a magnet. If you have nailed your personal brand, and if you know what you're looking for, be it like the next career goal, or be it like the perfect partner, no matter what age, because you're already sending out those signals. It's all about your first impression. Automatically, those kind of like guys or girls will come to you. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
I suppose like this whole online dating means the personal branding is even more important, isn't it? Because it's all very much based on looks, because people don't go in and read it and think like, oh, okay, they're interested in it, like, all their likes and dislikes. I think it's very much it's really important. And also, I guess, like from my own experience of doing sort of dating and stuff, is like you don't want to, I think I fell into the trap of putting like the yoga pictures or the sexy pictures, and it's like you just attract the wrong people, because like that's not serious. It's gonna, so you have to be really careful.
Or trying to be somebody. I mean, how many women in their lives have gone to the hairdresser and gone like, I want to look like Jennifer Aniston? But it doesn't maybe suit them. And I'm a big believer that everybody can look beautiful. Everybody is beautiful. And I had a wonderful client once, again, an introvert, and her hair, her glasses, it didn't suit her at all. And she was so vivacious, but you wouldn't have thought it from her entire look initially. So I literally said to her, take your glasses off. I just need to have a good look at you. And then we changed the hair color, we changed the haircut, changed the color of her shirts, changed the glasses. And it's amazing. She is just radiating out who she is. And for her, it was like a career goal she had. But all of a sudden, those doors would be opened for her because she was so authentic. She was so in tune. And that's what I mean. Like, it's really important to find out what looks good on you. And then again, if it matches you inside to your outside, it's the $1 million formula, because you're just authentic. And we are drawn to authentic people. If you think about it, certain celebrities, they might not be like the most average beautiful person, but because they're so themselves, we feel drawn to them, and anybody can achieve that.
Yeah, it's like when I think about sort of my friends, and I think they all look amazing, but if I wore their clothes, I would look ridiculous. It just does, it's just style is their style. And luckily for me, gym kit's quite fashionable these days, so I can get away with
Yes.
it. But I'm like, it's work clothes, I can't help it.
It's
So
perfect, and it suits you, and it gives up you have an amazing energy, and it again it communicates that energy, that dynamic personality. So yeah,
ready to run away at any point. Midlife, it often comes with like quite a lot of changes in priorities and like circumstances. And so how do you kind of help your clients align their personal brand with their evolving values and goals in this kind of period of their life?
So it's really important to understand the circumstances. So a lot of my clients are kind of like midlifers, and they are what I call the sandwich generations. You're quite often looking after children, but you're also looking after your parents, and that's a tough place to be in. So I was at that place. I completely get it, how it feels, and you have no time for yourself or self-care or anything. So it's really important, if I have a client like that, to make sure we can integrate it into their life. So we might actually draw out the process a little bit, and we might start a little bit smaller. And I know everybody's talking about the perfect morning routine and this, but let's face it, if you have a family, if you've got responsibilities, you don't have time for a perfect morning routine. So it's trying to identify what can we actually do. And then quite often we list the priorities as well. So somebody might come to me because they want to get the next position in their kind of like job, in their kind of like office, but it actually turns out they want to have a better work-life balance. And I had one client where I said to her, actually, you might be better off having a little side hustle and trying to kind of like shift into a more of a kind of like, start your own business or something. So it's trying to identify what could work for them. And it's obviously easier for me to do that because, sometimes you can't see the woods for the trees. And I find personal branding for myself completely hard and difficult because, I quite often have to ask a few of my best friends and go like, oh, what do you think about that? So it's obviously much easier if you have somebody who has a bird's eye view and can guide you through it and point out different kind of like opportunities and possibilities.
Yeah, it's a good point about the morning routine, because everyone, there's a lot of people out there that tell you exactly what you need to do. You have to do it like me. And it's like, not everyone has the same life. Not everyone has the luxury of so I do have quite a long morning routine, but I've made my life so that I can, and I never expect any of my clients to. All I say to people is, if you can, try and have 1 or 2 minutes just to breathe while you've got your coffee or tea, just so you're not going straight into everything. But I know some people even struggle with that, but 1 minute is going to give you something. But yeah, trying to have these unrealistic expectations just isn't helpful.
Exactly. And understanding kind of like, who you are. So, I would love to be able to work out in the morning. I can't. I need my coffee. I can't meditate, to be honest. I tried it a gazillion times. It just doesn't work for me. But I know if I have my cup of coffee and I can read a book or watch like a really kind of like informative YouTube video or something like this, something I'm actually learning, something that's good for my brain, do this for half an hour, that's my morning routine done. I'm a much better person than if I would try to do some exercise and meditate. But again, it's understanding who you are and how your body takes, and when is the best time to exercise, for example. And that's so individual, isn't it?
Absolutely. I love morning workouts, but I'm like trying to do them in the afternoon now, just because I feel like my brain is at its best in the morning. So I'm going to the gym and then sort of taking all my energy away. And then when I try and do work later, I'm tired. So I'm like, it's really hard. But I'm like, no, do your work first, do some work, and then go to the gym. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I would much rather just go straight to the gym, but never mind. Not helping me in moving my business forward. So I'm going to switch to afternoons.
Yeah, and exactly. And this is the other thing, kind of like people don't realize that you don't need that much time. So I got in the habit at kind of like 9 a.m. I have a notification on my phone and it basically pops up with work. And then all notifications are silenced until 12:30. Nobody can get through to me but my daughters and husband for emergencies. And it's so powerful. And I get so much done in those 3.5 hours. If I wouldn't have that process in place, I wouldn't get anything done. And this is the thing, we always think, oh, if I had more time to do this and this and that. Actually, if you are focused, single tasking, and really put your mind to something, it's amazing what you can achieve. Even if you have like a full-time job and kids or whatever, if you know where you're going and you give yourself an hour or two a day, you get there. So powerful.
Because I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's something about if you allow yourself a certain amount of time to do a task compared to another, you basically, what your task will expand, or you'll fit it into whatever time you have.
Yes.
If you have less time,
Yeah,
get it done quicker.
it is so true. It's Parkinson's law.
Yeah.
And it works all the time. And I literally do that. Same like LinkedIn. I think we had that chat before. So I only spend about 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn, and not in one block. So it might be 1, 2, or 3 blocks, but I will never spend more than 30 minutes. And it's amazing what you can achieve in that time. If I wouldn't set myself that time limit, I probably would be scrolling things for 2 hours. And the same anybody can try it, even with exercise. If you only have 15 minutes, but you have a certain goal, something to aim for, you're doing those squats and whatever it is so much more effectively than if you have an hour.
Absolutely. And also like so easy just to sort of take very long rest periods as you check your phone, but you just get it done, and much better.
Yeah.
So ageism is a real concern for sort of midlife professionals or individuals as well. And how would you say that a strong personal brand can help to counteract age-related bias and discrimination? Or can it?
Oh, it definitely can, because you have one big top trump card the older you get, and that's more experience. And yes, you have to keep up with technology, and you have to keep up with AI, for example, because that's here to stay. But it doesn't mean you have to be an expert in it. But kind of like trying to, nobody likes those people who go around, oh, in the 80s, in the 90s, life was so much better. We don't like that, And to be honest, it wasn't better. It was different than it is now. And what happens, especially kind of like in a corporate environment, or a lot of I know you work with a lot of company founders, and they obviously pit themselves against somebody in their late 20s, for example. And they grew up with the internet, with social media, and we haven't. So I have an understanding of social media. It doesn't mean that I have to sing and dance on all of the social media platforms. So I think you need to redefine age. And we think there is a barrier against us, but actually there isn't. And you should play your top trump card all the time, not belittling somebody who's younger and go like, oh, well, at your age or something. But just saying and the beauty is the older you get, the more connections you can make. And that is such a big advantage, if somebody starts talking about, I don't know, a kind of like an AI tool or something, you can compare it to how it used to be going into a library or something, and you can still take part in that conversation and actually use it to your advantage. So I don't think I think the age barriers are quite often in our own heads. The saying like, oh, life is over after 40. That's, excuse my French, complete bullshit. Um, Actually, the most successful startup founders are over 45. Fact. So, because you've got that experience to leverage. So I think we need to kind of like redefine the whole thing. And I'm a little bit on a mission on that topic as you know, on a little side hustle. I kind of like recently started doing YouTube. And by the way, my imposter syndrome was massive. I was like, how can I go on YouTube? I mean, I've spoken in front of 1,000 people on a stage, but that's different. But I love it now, and I'm on a mission to redefine what midlife is, because it's a period of growth. It's not doom and gloom. It's amazing. So, but that might be a different podcast episode.
Yeah.
You should come over to my channel for that one.
No, I hate the whole thing about, oh, you're too old for this, or it's just like, especially like they do it a lot around sort of your body, like aging and your body, sort of like, oh, you won't be able to do that anymore because you're getting older, or you can't like continue, you're gonna just have aches and pains. And like we sort of spoke about today, and it was like, it doesn't have to be like that. Like you don't have to suffer, and yes, you will get older, yes, things will start to sort of go wrong and what have you, but you can age much better if you look after yourself. And I see people gym in their sort of 80s, and I think that's amazing. I see women on YouTube and stuff doing sort of the splits, do all sorts of crazy stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. Anyone can do that if you just
exactly. And accepting your changing body. I mean, I was always that sporty kid. I never had to kind of like do anything, and people thought like, oh, you're athletic. But now in my late 40s, my body is changing, and I know I'm not going to get that body back I had like 10 years ago, because it's just how we are. But I can embrace that and can go like, you know what, my body has different advantages now. So it's all about kind of like knowing who you are and making the best out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of like talked about sort of social media just now, but what, like, obviously it is ever changing and it's sort of everywhere now. How can people use their personal brand in order to come across authentically, and also just to on social media in general? So what would you recommend?
So it depends what you want to actually achieve. So if you are in a corporate environment, or even if you have your own company, I think LinkedIn is amazing. And I wish there would be more people who actually start talking about what they're passionate. And I've seen quite a few people who started talking on LinkedIn about X, and 6 months later, everybody connected them with that subject matter. And they got a different job because of it, because people started associating you with that certain topic. I know if you would start talking about, I don't know, just nutrition, in 6 months' time, people would come to you just for nutrition. It's just how it works. We connect people to subject matters. And that's so powerful. But also people forget, like if you're working in a company, or let's say you run your own business in kind of, I don't know, a smaller town or something, social media doesn't necessarily need to be online. So think about how you behave in a networking event, or if you buy the coffee machines, or if you're grabbing lunch. Again, the same principle applies. Start talking about what you're passionate about, where you want to go, and people will associate you with that. And that is more important than dancing at every single social media platform. You don't have to do that. So
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those things. It's definitely got its pros and its cons, hasn't it? Like it can be very useful, but I think learning to I've just noticed recently, just like learning to turn it off. I was talking to a client, like a business owner yesterday, and we started working together, and his thing was like, it's basically like, it's addictive, isn't it? It's like, his basic thing is a bit like crack, like you can't put it down, and it's just really like impact his like work-life balance, and you're just like, yeah, not
It is, and that's how they were built. There is a brilliant book. It's called Hooked by Nia Ayal on the whole topic, and it explains how all of those platforms were built to give us constant little dopamine hits. So you just want to stay on it, and it's really hard if you got into the habit of it to come off it.
yeah.
And you see it all the time. If you're on a train, everybody has their phone out, and again, it comes back to, who do you want to be? And if you want to be the best version of yourself, scrolling endlessly on your phone is just, it's not going to cut it. You're actually dumbing yourself down by having that constant interaction. So you're much better off I love people watching, you don't necessarily have to read a book or something, but it's just having that awareness. And then also realizing, yes, those apps have been built to make us addicted to them. So, and it's hard to quit, but it's doable.
Yeah, I read somewhere ages ago that originally on Facebook the buttons were blue. Then they realized, they had some kind of behavioral specialist. They realized if you made them red, then you couldn't resist. You didn't want them to be red, so you wanted to get rid of them almost. So you notifications. And I was like, oh, and I've started when I'm on trains and things like that, trying to just sit, not even read anything, and just right away and just like stare, or like say people watch, and just be without having to have anything to distract me. So which is it's actually quite nice.
It is lovely. That's why I like escaping to the wilderness on bushcraft or canoeing trips, because there is no signal, and you're just you, and you're one with nature. And I think we all need that quiet time. I think we are in the habit of constantly being busy, and a lot of people are busy being busy. And if you actually take some time out and reflect on what is it actually I want to do with my life, you realize you don't need that much time to actually achieve that. And you gain so much more from having those quieter phases in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember like years ago, I went to Australia with an ex-boyfriend and like his family, and his uncle was a finance director and like worked a lot. And we went out on this catamaran around the Whitsundays, no signal, and it was so good for him because he couldn't work, because he was working the entire rest of the holiday. And you're just like, it's like funny that it has to be forced on you, that you have the internet taken away from you, but otherwise, it was so good for him. He's like, you can see him sort of relaxed and just being more present.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, it's so important to sometimes just stop and have a good look around, because time flies. It's September already, and it felt we just celebrated New Year's Eve. So it is scary.
So we just we'll finish off, like getting to the end now. I've got two more questions for you. The next penultimate question. So are there any, apart from working with you, of course, are there any kind of resources, tools or exercises that you would recommend for midlife individuals who want to start their personal brand journey or enhance their existing brand?
So the number one are your friends. Kind of like invite them over, open a bottle of wine, and really say to them, please, you need to help me. How do I come across to others? Or you could even, if you're brave enough, send an email to colleagues and just say like, hey, I'm currently doing that personal brand audit. Can you just please describe me in 3 words? Or, please be honest. So you get a good perception of how others perceive you. I mean, to be honest, quite often you already know that you're probably not seen how you actually are. So having that awareness, that's something you can do yourself. On the career bit, I did do a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago, and in there I share kind of like 3 or 4 exercises you can do yourself to kind of like actually realize how much you've already done and how easy it is to pivot your career. So there's a lot of stuff out there. If people want to follow me on YouTube, there's more to come. I only work with a few clients every month, because it needs to be in depth, and I really want every single one needs to have that powerful transformation. I am toying with the idea of doing an online course on the subject, maybe later that year. So if that's something of interest, then best thing is to just follow me on YouTube or LinkedIn, and
I will link to those in the show notes so that people can find you nice and easily. So I just have one question that I asked to everyone, and I kind of have an idea of what you might say, but I will let you enlighten us. It's what's one thing that you think, or you recommend, I should say, you recommend people take a pause for in their day to improve their mental and physical health and optimize their performance?
take a break. And ideally outside. It's so important. And if you can combine it with a walk. So I always say to people, I'm doing a walking meditation, and luckily I've got 3 dogs, so I have to go for a walk anyway. But just taking a break. Don't have your phone on you. If you have a busy day, take a cup of tea or coffee and just sit outside on a rainy day. Just sit next to the window and just be with yourself. It's so powerful, and then everything else will fall into place.
Oh, that's a great. I did think it was going to be to take a walk outside. Yeah, it's funny. I went back to my parents. They live in the country, like a couple of weekends ago, and I did exactly that. I would take my coffee. They've got like some lovely garden, and I'd sit there with my coffee, listen to the birds, and it was just like, I wish I could start every day like this. My balcony overlooking the flats is not quite the same, but I'm grateful.
You can find those pockets. You can even create like a little corner in your own home. Light a candle. Yeah. And I always say to my clients, especially the super busy ones, you have to slow down to speed up. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. It's so powerful. If you stop and slow down, you become crystal clear on what's important. And then you can cut everything else that isn't important out of your life. And all of a sudden you've generated so much time for yourself to actually focus on the things that do matter.
What a great way to finish. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely having you on, and I think they've given a lot of advice and a lot of tips, and I'm going to be like, I don't know if I'm brave enough to ask my friends to give me an audit on my but I might. But thank you so much, and I will hopefully have you on again soon. I don't think we've even touched the surface of everything we could talk about. So.
True. Yeah. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I love your energy. It's I bet you transport that energy to your clients as well. So it must be fun working with you. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed that podcast interview. So thank you for having me.
Next time. You've been listening to the Pause to Perform podcast with me, Jenny Devonshire. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you could rate, review and subscribe. This helps other people find it, and hopefully I can help more people to improve their mental and physical health and optimize their performance.